Third time in 2 years. It's Matt Derry and James Yarcho on a crossover.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, everybody. It's the Thursday crossover brought to you by Prize Picks. Matt Derry, Locked On Lions. James Yarcho, Locked On Bucs. Third time in 2 years. Like we said, these two teams faced each other twice last year, including in the playoffs. Now, a couple of 1-0 teams at Ford Field Sunday at 1 o'clock. And again, Locked On Lions and Locked On Bucs. And the crossover Thursday brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code all lowercase Locked On NFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Lions off a Sunday night win over the Rams. Bucs battered and bruised the Commanders. James, great to see you. And here we go again, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, you said 3 times in 2 years. If you think about it, it's 3 times in 11 months.
Yes.
The first of these 3 came in October, and that was the Buccaneers creamsicle throwback game. Detroit just dominated that one, and then of course the divisional round. So yeah, here we go again. It's the Lions and the Bucs. It's the old black and blue division all over again.
Tell us about biggest stories with the Bucs. What's going on in Tampa? How are they feeling? It seems like things are good, and some injuries though you're worried about, right?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest story for the Buccaneers, at least on the offensive side of the ball, is how efficient Baker Mayfield was in week 1 with new offensive coordinator Liam Coen. He was the FedEx Air Player of the week, went 24 for 30 for 289 and 4 touchdowns. An absolutely phenomenal performance from Baker Mayfield, and a big part of that is because they finally have a legitimate wide receiver 3. If you go back to last year and you think, there was Mike Evans, there was Chris Godwin, and there really wasn't much else. Now they have Jalen McMillan, a guy who is going to be a star in the NFL. He has everything that you look for in a wide receiver. Now that takes a little bit of the pressure off Mike, a little bit of the pressure off of Chris, and then they add Bucky Irving in the backfield as well, and he can do everything that Rashad can do. He can run the ball, he can pick up blitzes, he can make plays out of the backfield as a pass catcher, and all of these things have now really put Baker Mayfield into a comfortable spot, and that was on full display against Washington. So the Bucs are looking to really try to make that a continuous thing week in and week out. But then you mentioned it on the defensive side of the ball, it's the injuries. They came in against the Washington Commanders, missing 2 of their starting defensive linemen in Kalijah Kancey and Logan Hall. They already had one of their reserves placed on injured reserve in Ernest Brown. So, Kalijah Kancey injured that calf that kept him out a little bit at the start of last season. Logan Hall, luckily, was back at practice on Wednesday, but then during the game, you lose Zion McCollum. He is the starting outside corner after they traded Carlton Davis to the Detroit Lions. He suffers a concussion and he misses the game. He was back in a non-contact injury or a non-contact jersey on Wednesday. You lose Josh Hayes, who's more of a special teamer than he is a weapon on the defensive side of the ball. But then you lose Zion's backup, Bryce Hall, for the season. A nasty, gruesome injury for those Lions fans that didn't see the game because you probably got stuck watching Dallas and Cleveland. The announcers on Fox actually said, it was so gruesome, we're not going to show a replay. He suffered a dislocated ankle and a broken fibia. So the Bucs have to go out. They signed Keenan Isaac, who was on their team in preseason. He was cut. They bring him back, but the biggest loss of all is Antoine Winfield Jr. And in a game against the Detroit Lions, when you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, when you have the speed of Jamison Williams, when you have Sam Laporta, one of the best tight ends in the NFL, losing the heart and soul of your defense and the best safety in the NFL is a crucial loss. So the big thing around the Bucs is, how do they overcome all these injuries? Is Zion going to be able to clear concussion protocol, or now are they going to have to piecemeal something together opposite?
Oh, here we lost you. Can you unmute? Unmute. I think we got you. What happened there? There you go. Go ahead, James.
So sorry about that. Nope. my sound off. No idea why. Just randomly turned off.
All
So,
good. Keep going, my brother. Keep going.
I don't even remember where I was.
You were talking about the
Zion and
yeah, and then those guys and who
yeah.
steps up now on that in that secondary.
Okay. So yeah, Christian Izien came in to fill in for Zion McCollum on the outside after Bryce Hall went down with injury. He's going to be back at safety because Antoine Winfield Jr. is out. So it's going to be him and Jordan Whitehead. So the big question is, how are they going to fill that void on the outside? It seems highly unlikely that it's going to be rookie Tyke Smith. He's much better suited for the slot. You have Tavier Thomas there who says that he can bounce back and forth between the two. He's primarily a slot corner. Like I mentioned, they bring back Keenan Isaac. They have an undrafted rookie in Tyreek Funderburk, who was a game day inactive against Washington. He's going to have to be suited up and ready to go. Even Mike Evans, during the game against Washington, said, I've played corner before. I got an interception in the Pro Bowl. I'll go in and play.
No. Well, don't do that.
which of course nobody wants to see, because you don't want to risk the injury there. And let's be honest, for as great as Mike Evans is, and he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, he's not going to be a good corner. And his interception came off Deshaun Watson, which is not nearly as impressive as it would have been, 4 or 5 years ago. So yeah, the injury problems seemed to have Todd Bowles a little on edge on Wednesday when he was speaking to the media. You go back to last week and he was pounding the podium screaming, I'm excited.
He was
that. He was very morose. He was very short. He was very kind of, perturbed, I guess is the best way to put it, with the media. So it's a matter of can Bowles' scheme overcome the injuries, and can the offense replicate what they did against Washington against a better defense and really be able to kind of win what I think is going to end up being a shootout with the Detroit Lions.
Give me like a minute on this. This is interesting. They traded Carlton Davis to the Lions. And it's kind of ironic now that they're so banged up in the secondary and probably could use him. But what were your thoughts on the Davis deal? And also, how about this irony now that they're so banged up, they could probably use him?
I think the Davis deal came to fruition, in my opinion, because Davis dealt with injury in 2023, and so did Jamal Dean. So Zion McCollum got a lot of opportunity to go out on the field. And of course, the Buccaneers were strapped for cash in the offseason. I think if Jamal Dean's contract wasn't structured in the way that it was, he would have been up for trade as well, I guess. And it would have been a choice between, can they get a deal done for Dean, or can they get a deal done for Davis? Instead, they would have taken on so much dead money for Jamal Dean that they kind of had to let Carlton go, and they restructured some things, but that was a big part of it. And you look at what they did. They made Tristan Wirfs the highest paid offensive lineman in the league. They made Antoine Winfield Jr. the highest paid defensive back in NFL history. They signed Mike Evans. They signed Baker Mayfield. So Davis was kind of a victim of circumstance. And I think had Zion not played as well as he did last year, that they probably would have tried to restructure and fix some things and move some money around to keep Carlton Davis. But, you're right. It is kind of ironic that now the Bucs are really beat up at the corner spot. But to be fair, Davis and Jamal Dean have missed more than their fair share of time. So it's more than likely that Davis or Dean would have been one of the ones that got hurt on Sunday anyway.
Biggest storylines for the Lions. We will get to that coming up next. Good game this Sunday. Lions and Bucs are going at it once again, a rematch of last year's playoffs. We'll get to the Lions next here on Thursday Crossover, brought to you by Prize Picks. And we want to welcome in our friends at DoorDash to the Locked On Podcast Network. Great to have them back. Football is finally back too, which means it's time to order your favorite game day food, snacks, and drinks on DoorDash without missing a play. What's your best piece of game day advice for fellow fans? Well, what about that time that you were at your buddy's house and he had no food and no drinks and nothing? How could DoorDash have come to the rescue? It's simple. They do. There's all sorts of game day essentials that you need. You want wings, you can get them from DoorDash. You want burgers, DoorDash. You need some beverages, some cold drinks, you can get them from DoorDash. It is phenomenal. Seriously, use promo code LOCKEDFALL, FALL 24 for 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order. Limited time offer, terms apply. Promo is not valid for orders containing alcohol. DoorDash, your door to game day game day greatness, your door to more. Download the DoorDash app now. Everybody's got it, but if you don't, download it now to order up your game day favorites. Must be 21 years or older to get alcohol. Drink responsibly. Alcohol available only in select markets. And Locked On Lions and Locked On Bucs today, also brought to you by our friends at Hims Men. When you leave the house, it's phone, wallet, keys, just like Adam Sandler once said. Now, how's your hair look? If you're experiencing hair loss, you may not want to be so confident stepping outside your door. It's time to get that confidence back and restore your hair with Hims. Real talk. The only thing worse than losing your hair is waiting forever to grow it back. Hims provides access to a range of hair loss treatments that work all from the comfort of your couch. They make treating hair loss simple with doctor-trusted treatment options and clinically proven ingredients like finasteride and minoxidil that can regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/LockedOnNFL. That's Hims, HIMS.com/LockedOn for your personalized hair loss treatment options. Hims.com/LockedOnNFL. Results vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil. Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. James Yarcho from Locked On Bucs, Matt Derry, Locked On Lions. It's the Lions and Bucs from Ford Field in a rematch of the divisional playoff round last year. You and I haven't even talked since that game, but it's funny. People have said, well, the Lions, are bringing the band back. They really are, James. And I think that the biggest storyline for this game is that, well, these two teams look very similar outside of what you said about the Bucs secondary. And I think the Lions secondary is better with Carlton Davis, but I thought Baker Mayfield, before we get to this Lions stuff, I thought Mayfield played well last year in that playoff game. It wasn't his fault they lost.
Yeah, I mean, he had the bad interception at the very end, but
right.
Early on, it looked like Detroit was going to kind of run away with it. Yeah, Jamal Dean, who I just talked a lot about, he dropped an interception on Detroit's opening drive that could have kept points off the board for Detroit and really could have started the Bucs out hot. Chase McLaughlin missed a field goal, which was very uncharacteristic given how he had played last year, but that was an epic game. It was back and forth, and then all of a sudden both teams are throwing haymakers and the ball's in Baker's hands with a chance to try to move down the field and tie it up. So hopefully we get another, instant classic in this one, because I get the feeling you and I might be talking again come January.
The biggest storyline here, and it's simple. The Lions didn't even play that well. I know you watched the game Sunday night. It's a good Rams team. They were very banged up. I said on my show on Wednesday, Stafford played one heck of a game the more I watched the tape. But the Lions feel like, wow, Amon-Ra St. Brown caught 3 balls for 13 yards. Sam Laporta really wasn't a part of the offense. Jared Goff had his lowest PFF grade he's had in years, and yet they still won. So I think the Lions feel like, and I think the fans feel like, this team didn't play all that well Sunday night, escape with a win, and now can they put it all together? And like you were saying, with a banged up secondary, maybe now we start to see that Ben Johnson offense without the rust of no preseason. Lions didn't play any of their regulars in the preseason, kind of get back to doing what the Lions do at home, which is a track meet and certainly getting that offense going. Defensively, Aiden Hutchinson was unreal. The D-line played very well. Maybe not a ton of sacks or anything on Stafford, but and again, the story has been the secondary. You upgrade with Terrion Arnold and it's Rakestraw from the draft, certainly Carlton Davis in free agency and Amik Robertson. It's a different looking corner group that Baker Mayfield saw, like you said, just a handful of months ago.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And of course, I got to shout out my guy, Kirby Joseph. As the viewers could see, I am an Illini till I die. And yeah, they may not have gotten a lot of sacks on Matthew Stafford, but they sure made him feel their presence. I mean, Stafford was gimping around pretty bad. He was beat up in that game. And, Baker is not shy from, absorbing the contact or taking the hits. And, a lot of times he'll get rid of the ball. I don't think there was anybody in the NFL last year better at escaping sacks than he was. And he still was sacked 40 times. You can even go back and watch that Washington game. He was sacked once, but he escaped probably 6 or 7 others and made great plays down the field. So you're right. There are some differences here between the team that they faced in January and the team that they're going to face here. My big thing, and I'm curious your thought. You wanted my thoughts on the Davis trade. I'm curious your thoughts. Davis is going to play an integral role for the Lions defense in this one, and kind of knowing Davis and how he operates. You think he might actually be a little bit more of a detriment trying to, make sure that he's manning up on Mike Evans and prove to the Bucs that, hey, you got rid of the wrong guy and I'm going to make you pay for it.
I don't know, obviously he's played one game,
Yeah.
and it's not like he's constantly being interviewed. I've heard some of the stuff he says, and he's a veteran guy and they needed him. I didn't love the return at the time, especially because of the injuries. Talking to our mutual buddy, Trevor Sikkema, about it. He didn't love it either. But the more I thought about it, you looked at last year's corners that started in that playoff game against the Bucs: Cam Sutton, Kendall Vildor, Will Harris, guys like Jerry Jacobs played last year. I mean, the Lions really needed to upgrade, and this was a move they had to make. And Carlton Davis playing in a free agency year now, contract year, and if he's healthy, can definitely be an upgrade. So I don't know if he's going to overcompensate or go for a pick where he should have just maybe taken a 5-yard gain on an out play and tackle the guy. And don't know if he'll do that, but I am intrigued to see, like you said, how that matchup will go. I mean, they practiced together how many years? Davis versus Mike Evans, who's just one of the best, and now they get to go at it. I mean, Mike Evans 8 against the Lions last year in that playoff game.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be as smooth sailing this time around because they've upgraded there. And now Brian Branch moves back to safety. He played a really lousy game Sunday night. He'll be much better. I like him in that safety role. So I think the Lions will play better this week. There were some mistakes made, but again, I think a lot of it was certainly rust,
Yeah. And one of the things that I'll say is when Carlton Davis is on, he is on, and you will watch him and say, oh my gosh, I am so glad that the Lions traded for this guy. But when he's off, it's a long day. Yeah, he was one of the big reasons that the Bucs lost to the Houston Texans when CJ Stroud had that massive 5-touchdown comeback. And he had a rough day out there. But on the flip side, like I said, when he's on, Jamar Chase gave an interview. I believe it was after his second season, and they said, who's the toughest corner you face? He said Carlton Davis. That guy is absolutely incredible. So I'm really interested to see how Davis plays. I'm not sure how often he'll line up against Mike. He'll kind of shift around and move around. I don't know if he'll be on Godwin very much. He's not really a slot kind of guy. He'll get his shot against the rookie McMillan, but I'm not under the impression that Davis is going to shadow Mike all over the field, but that's definitely kind of the marquee matchup that I think Bucs fans are going to be watching is Carlton Davis versus whoever the Bucs wide receiver is.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a lot of fun, and these are two good teams, so this should definitely be good. All right, coming up next, let's talk about some keys. What do the Bucs need to do to win? What do the Lions need to do to win? And we'll do our predictions as well here on a Thursday. Locked On Lions and Locked On Bucs, the crossover, brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. We got to tell you, though, about our friends at FanDuel as well. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel. It's because it's America's #1 sports book. Well, we got something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV-based plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment. You can cancel anytime. If that's not enough, be sure to check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's Double Your Winnings for All of Sunday 9/15. That's this Sunday. Pre-game moneyline bets, Profit Boost. They're going to start live Thursday night for the game. That's tonight. View your account page now to learn more about your boost. Go to FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. Matt and James, Locked On Lions, Locked On Bucs. Bucs coming to Ford Field, just like they did last year for the playoff game, which turned out to be a great football game. All right, James, what do the Bucs got to do to win? What do you see as some keys here as how they get this thing done?
First and foremost, Baker Mayfield has got to be as accurate and efficient as he was against Washington. Chris Godwin still needs to be the focal point of the offense, and they have got to shut down Amon-Ra St. Brown. So Baker Mayfield on Sunday went 24 for 30, 289, 4 touchdowns. But here's where it really got interesting for Baker Mayfield, and what I mean when I talk about he's got to be as efficient as he was. He was 10 of 12 for 145 and 3 touchdowns when throwing at or beyond the first down marker. That's an 83.3% completion percentage. And on passes of 10 or more yards, he was 5 of 7 for 105 and 2. That's what the Liam Coen offense has brought to the Bucs, in addition to those threats that I mentioned in Jalen McMillan and Bucky Irving. They really open up a whole slew of different options for Baker. And that Liam Coen offense is kind of a spinoff of what Detroit just saw against the Rams last week. Now, something else that I noticed that kind of parallels between the two, Baker Mayfield on Sunday only ran play action 4 times. He was 2 of 4. Of Matt Stafford's 51 dropbacks against Detroit, they only ran play action 7 times. So I don't expect a lot of play action in this game. It's going to be straight up. Liam's going to call some plays. Baker's going to put him in the best position, and they are going to go. As far as Chris Godwin, he's in that Cooper Kupp role in Liam Cohen's offense. He's back in the slot. He had 8 targets for 8 receptions, 83 yards. 5 of his 8 receptions came on 3rd down and resulted in a 1st down. You go back to Sunday, Cooper Kupp, 14 receptions on 21 targets for 110 and 1. That's going to be Chris Godwin in this game. Not 21 targets, but that's going to be the role that he plays. And that's how the Bucs offense is going to continue to move the ball down the field and try to put themselves in a position to score. As for Amon-Ra, he is one of the best receivers in the NFL, bar none. He is absolutely phenomenal, and he had a bad game. 3 catches for 13 yards. Goff and St. Brown are not going to let that happen again.
No.
So last year against the Bucs in the divisional round, 77 yards and a touchdown, but the 2 games combined, he had 20 receptions for 201 yards and 2 touchdowns. Amon-Ra was the driving force for the Lions against Tampa. A beaten up secondary, no Antoine Winfield Jr. They have to find a way to contain Amon-Ra St. Brown and force Goff to look in other directions. Force Jameson Williams to do it a second week in a row. Challenge the run game to go against a very good Buccaneers run defense, or they have Gibbs and Montgomery as passing threats out of the backfield. But it starts with Amon-Ra. If you can keep him to the same stat line that the Rams did, you have a chance to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, you and I agree. I don't think that's happening. And I mean, not that stat line.
Right.
3 at 13 was an anomaly, but you give the Rams credit. They took them away. I'll say this for the Lions, what we saw in overtime Sunday night, 8 plays in that final drive that ended in the Montgomery touchdown, 7 runs. Get back to that a little bit. No one loves Jahmyr Gibbs more than me, and he's fantastic, but there's got to be a way that David Montgomery gets more touches consistently in this game. I thought they went away from him too much 3rd and 4th quarter, and then overtime. Well, we need to pound the rock, and they go there. So that'll keep Baker and that explosive Bucs offense off the field if they're running the football and they're getting some chunks with Montgomery. I think it was last year in Tampa, Montgomery was eating for a while and doing well, and then got hurt in that game. So stays healthy and does his thing. I think that'll be a key. You mentioned something I had written down. If Chris Godwin is in that Cooper Kupp role, the Lions have got to find a way. If Godwin's playing that motion game that they did with Kupp to find him. I think the Lions pass defense did a good job for the most part. There weren't a lot of explosive plays, chunk plays for the Rams. But if you're telling me that the new OC down in Tampa has a little Sean McVay in him, then he's going to watch that film and say, wow, let's put our guys in motion. Maybe Godwin turns into Kupp, and that can't happen if the Lions want to win. And the third key is I think long fields for Baker with this crowd. What's going on at Ford Field right now, and I know Bucs fans heard it last year. It's insane. I mean, it is like it's a rock concert. It's everything. It's craziness. And Jack Fox continues to be a huge key for the Lions. Booming punts. You give Baker a long field. He's got to go 90 yards. And I know now with this silly new kickoff rule, everything's at the 30, it seems like. But let's see Baker start at the 5 and have to go 95 yards. Let's see that Bucs offense a couple of times, the flip field, Jack Fox doing his thing, crowd into it, could cause some disruption there. So I think those are a few things I think, James, the Lions need to do.
Yeah, I mean, Ford Field is no joke. David Harrison, the host of Locked On Commanders on this network, he and I were sitting about 8 inches away from each other during that game. We were having to text one another in order to have a conversation because we could not hear. It is loud. And I know the Bucs have been working on trying to simulate, the silent counts and try to simulate the crowd noise. You cannot replicate. I have been to a lot of concerts in my life, and my ears have never rung as much as they did leaving Ford Field after that game. It is electric, and I love it for Lions fans, man. They have suffered for far too long. I love that the crowd gets so amped up and they have a team that they can love and cheer on that much.
I think the Lions are going to win this football game. I think, like you said before, I see a shootout. I think that, Baker and that Bucs offense and some of the new backs, and I don't think the Lions defense will be terrible, but I think Tampa's going to have some success. So I could see a 37-31 type of game here where, again, it's on that number. Vegas has, and our friends at FanDuel have it at 6.5. I could see a 37-31 game here where the Lions prevail. I think St. Brown will bounce back. And I think some of that rust will be off of the Lions. What do you say?
Yeah, that line's moved a little bit because it was at 7. So now it's come down just a little bit. I think the Bucs cover, but with all these injuries, especially Antoine and then Kalijah Cansey, that's the other really, really big one that affects the Bucs' ability to rush the passer. I don't know if they have the horses to be able to pull off an upset in Detroit. I think it's going to be close. And like I said, I truly believe that this is not the last time you and I are going to speak in the 2024 season. I think these two are destined to meet each other again in the playoffs, but I could see this one being 35-31, 37-35. Like it's going to be tight and it's going to be high scoring. Hammer the over. But I don't think the Bucs get this one done.
James, was fun as always, my friend. Good stuff. Thanks again.
Yep. Thank you. Always a pleasure talking to you and talking Bucs Lions.
You know it, James Yarcho, Locked On Bucs. Check him out wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, subscribe and watch on the Locked On Bucs YouTube channel. Matt Derry here, Locked On Lions, Lions and Bucs, Sunday at 1. Friday shows tomorrow.